Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, we have 4 minutes before we start. Hi, Etuna. Hi, Titi. Welcome, guys. So, as usual, tell us where you're joining from. We can see your names. Um, welcome, 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 everyone. So, let's quickly broadcast this that we're live so that others can quickly join us. Our guest is with us already, and I can't wait. Hi, Busayo. Hi, Emelda. Right. Hi, Basi. Hi, Lydia. Where are you joining us from? Okay. This. You live. Okay. Welcome everyone. Hi, Oma. How's Lagos today? Hi, Helwendo. How is Namibia? Sorry about that. Hi, Titi. Where are you joining us from? Okay, Lagos. Hi, Uvat. Hi, Cross River. Hi, Chioma. Hi, Enugu. Welcome, guys. So let's just have few people join us. We will start exactly on time. And depending on how intimate this discussion is, I don't know if we'll have a replay or not. So it's better you join live. Hi, Christiana. How's a choir bomb? Hi, Gift. Hi, Ebon. Hi, Esther. How has your lessons been in week 2? Tell me, did you get value? How was content creation? Have you gotten a hang of Canva? What lesson in the social media management stood out for you? Tell me what your greatest learning points were for week 2. Hi, Chinaza. Hi, Emelda. That's Zambia. Hi, Zambia today. Okay. I want to hear your feedback from week 2. Hi, Abigail. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Uganda. Hi, Margaret. My Zambia girls. Welcome. Hi, Vanessa. Zambia again. I want to hear the feedback from week 2. Who is sharing? Mhm. Who's sharing with us? Okay, it's time. We're starting. We're not waiting for anybody. So they can all join us, right? Um, Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Mrs Oduenyi.
Good
Thank you
evening.
so much
It's
for
morning
joining
here.
us.
7 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. And thank you for making our time from your schedule to join us today. Thank you
A
so
pleasure.
much. So they're still joining us, and because of time and data, we don't want to, those that joined early, I don't want them to have to wait so long. So we'll just start and they'll keep joining us. I don't know, but the side, can you see their comments, please?
Let me see. No, I can't see any. Okay. Oh,
You're right, you see comments.
yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. I can.
Okay, so you see their comments. So today we're going to be having a sisters conversation. That's why it's not so formal. It's very informal because you're a big sister, and we just want to gist with you. We just want to know you. We just want you to guide us, hold our hands, and all of that. And
Hmm.
so nothing so formal. If possible, if it's even too personal, we might not even put it out publicly after it. We could just act like it or something, but just to learn and all of that. Um, Mr. Oduenyi is a development expert, fantastic human being, a
Mm.
mom, a sister, and everything. And she's a member of advisory board at the Tech Training Incubator Foundation, and she has really been instrumental to our growth. So just help me say thank you to her on that. And today we're going to be having a sisters conversation. And we're literally going to be taking her um, back to when she was in her 20s. Tech Up Girls, the focus is girls between 16 and 30. So most participants here are between 16 and 30, with most of them in their 20s. And the life enhancement call, like it's called, is basically to enhance their life, other skills beyond tech that if they're not put together, they cannot do tech. They can work effectively. So that's what it's about. And so we're going to be running through some questions and then be engaging and asking questions and making notes. So can we get started already? Are you ready?
I'm very ready.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with I introduced you from my angle. So tell us about yourself. Who will you say you are, or how will you introduce yourself to us?
So, well, my name, you've already said my name. So, my name is Oduenyi, and I'm a development practitioner. I've been in that field of the not for profit sector for quite a while, almost 20 years. As a person, I'm creative. I love learning. I enjoy, discovering new things. I would say I'm very resourceful. I love to read a lot. I love knowledge. For me, I love to learn new things. I love to challenge myself. I don't like to hear, when people say, oh, it can't be done. It just makes me mad. I'm like, why? I like to ask why. Um, I was lucky enough to find a career in a place where my personal values as a human being aligned with the work I got to do. So for a very long time, all the jobs and career, things I did during my career were just like things I would do for free, really. And I think that having that opportunity is a privilege, which I don't take for granted. Right now, I'm in another chapter of my journey. I've taken another bold step to achieve another part of my journey that for me at this stage I've been like, why not? A lot of you here have things you have in your goals like you want to do, and at some stage you're going to realize, look, what do you lose by not trying? So you don't want to live in regret and say, what if? So we're going to be going back, to think about, yes, the 20s, what were they like? So what I'm doing now is taking that step to do something I've thought about in my personal life for a while. Like, I'd like to make this step. And here I am, and that's a little bit about myself. I have 3 kids, 3 children, 3 very active, interesting human beings, Yeah, and I'm married to an amazing man, Chijoke Okonkwo.
Wow, amazing. A beauty. Are you guys learning how to introduce yourself and how she intersected the unique areas about her, and she was just so natural about it. And I'm like 20 years in impact. That is wow. Thank you. And there was something else you said. I think we'll address that later. Having to work in a place where your personal values aligned with the work that they did. So I think that's a beautiful thing. So we'll start with what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in your 20s and how did you overcome them? So look back when I was in my 20s, what was a major challenge for me and did you overcome them? If you did, how did you overcome them?
One of the challenges I face, in my 20s had to do with so I went to school in the southeastern part of the country. So one of the main challenges I grappled with a lot when I was younger was wanting something different from most of the people around me. I remember when I was in school, I don't know if anybody has gone to school in the southeast, but the natural next step is marriage when you're in school. In fact, when you're in your final last 2 years of your university, everybody, is either engaged or has, a husband or somebody in America and all that. And, wanting something different for yourself can be can even make you feel like, is there something wrong with me? And I just couldn't wait to finish school and just leave and start work and achieve, all the things I had in my head. And it seemed, people were like, what's wrong with you? You don't have any plans to settle down, so when you're in your 20s, a lot of the things you want, because you don't have a lot of experience, it can be a real challenge. You're even asking yourself, do I even know what I'm doing? How do I even know people that are doing what I'm doing? It could be anything. And, that can be scary because it's like, what if I'm making a mistake? That was one of the things. Another challenge I had in my 20s was, so when I was in school, I was very active, involved in lots of things. I was the editor-in-chief of one of the campus publications. And I think I lived a full life. I had different things I was involved in. And at the time when I got into school, I wasn't GP conscious. And if you went to my school, everybody's calculating their GP every day. How close am I to 2-1 or first class or whatever? And, I just got conscious of that in my third year. I went to a school where I had 5-year program because I made friends with some lady who was the best student in my class. And she's like, have you even calculated your GP? And me, I'm thinking, I'm passing, I'm not failing any course. No, you have to calculate your GPO. Do you know what you're going to graduate with? And I now learned how to calculate my GPA. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And everybody's telling you, if you don't finish with a 2-1, forget it. You see the job market. Nobody's recruiting people who have 2-2. Nobody, in fact, is first class and 2-1. And, it now started looking bleak. You're in your third year, you're learning this. And, this discussion, I'm going to be open with you guys. One of the things, when Excellence asked me to do this discussion, I said to myself, it's very easy when you're asked questions to give technical answers, right? To give answers that sound, well, I'm going to give you answers from my own experience and what I've learned. So it might not, be, I'm going to just be vulnerable with you. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. So I now said, what will I do? So of course we became study partners and I started to work towards getting that GP that would give me the job of my dreams, right? And by the time I graduated, of course, it looked very bleak. It was dependent on my defense. If I had gotten an A in my defense, it would have pushed me into the 3.5 mark. I graduated in the end with 3.48, which was like shy of 3.5. So now you're coming out of school into the job market and everybody has told you, and it was, I don't know how things are now, but then it was real. You see, newspaper adverts. So people with 2-1 and first class, nobody's asking for anybody who doesn't have that. Scholarships, all sorts. And everybody's like, this bank has called for interview. This bank is calling people for interview. Oh, let me submit my CV. No, they said if you don't have 2-1 or first class, PwC is recruiting. At Anderson is recruiting. Accenture now used to be called that, like that. And it was like a burden. Like, am I ever going to get a good job, But I had, and I know some of you, I don't know what creed, what faith you are, but I'm a Christian. And I struggled with it for the longest time. And I really felt God speak to my heart like, look, this thing is not going to matter with where I'm going to take you to. And eventually, even when I finished school, I had a sense of what I wanted to do, but I couldn't put it into words because I just, coming from where I was coming from, I didn't even know that kind of work existed. But as God would have it, I eventually applied for, in fact, the first thing I did was create my own job, first of all. So when it didn't look like a job was coming, I became a virtual assistant. It wasn't popular then. I just read about it on the internet. And I had a few relatives abroad who had businesses in Nigeria. So I said, I'll be your virtual assistant. You have letters to deliver, meetings to attend. You have someone here. And I was working from home. That was as far back as 2003, when it wasn't even popular, because they'll pay me. Then sometimes they'll call me. They'll say, I need you to go to VI and do this. I've sent you a letter to your inbox, print it out, take it to this, and I was doing all those administrative tasks for them before I eventually got a job. And I got an amazing job with an American NGO with the 2-2. It wasn't even an issue. And that's how my career in not-for-profit started. Because one of the things I learned from that was I had skills, and just to keep pushing, not to just, people say, you can't get this. They only need people who have this set of, skills or whatever. I kept pushing and applying. And at the end of the day, I finally got through. So that was one of the challenges I faced in my 20s that I overcame. I hope that helps someone.
It helped a lot. It helped a lot. And I have two follow-up questions from that. So the first follow-up question, you talked about when you were in school, most of your mates, when they finished, they were getting married. Did you ever feel left out, or did you ever feel, if I don't get married, if I don't say yes to this guy now, I might regret tomorrow, I'm not get married, I might have those old aunties that are 50 something and they didn't get married because when their mates were getting married, they didn't get married. So most girls have this
I,
thing that you're a
I
flower,
never
you
felt that way.
will go. So
No, I never
did you
felt
ever,
that way. But it was also because of my own unique circumstance. So my parents were divorced. So already I had a super consciousness of what marriage took. And so, going to school, I had people who say, oh, children from broken homes will end up, regular, blah, 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 and they end up their marriage with. And for me, I just felt that was, when people say that, I would laugh because if my parents married did anything to me, it made me aware that marriage was a very important, relationship to have, and that is one I would take with care and not rush into. Whereas someone who's coming from a put together home might just rush into it thinking, oh, take it for granted. I love him, he loves me, is enough, will be good. So marriage was never on the table for me. Like I was even thinking that way. I was just like, you know what? I'm not, interested. I just want to go travel the world, work, be free. One day I'll marry. So, and that in itself was a problem, because people would be like, are you okay? Yeah, I remember when I was in secondary school, we were having some silly discussion, and people were talking about washing their husband's pants. I mean, we're in secondary school. I don't know why it was even on the table as a discussion. And growing up with a father who he's going to do his laundry, he'll take my mom's things with him. I was like, no, I'm not going to wash anybody's pants too. I mean, I must have been in JS too, for goodness sakes, when we we're having this silly discussion. And that's how all of them were like, oh, hey, see this girl, oh. They were now telling everybody. So later, some senior called me and said, hey, where's the girl that I heard that said she's not going to wash her husband's pants? And I was like, oh my goodness, what's this one now about? And I said, yeah, she said, oh, shake my hand. Good. What nonsense. See these people, they don't even. And I was like, oh, okay, this is, so in the period where I was growing up, some of these things were like goals and achievements for people. So there were just a few of us who wanted, to do other things. And it's maybe because of my background and maybe because of the kind of mother I had, it never was a problem for me. Like I had friends who were married and had kids, and I was happy for them. I'd go visit them. But it didn't disturb me. That's what I'll say. The only periods when I have problems are when I'm talking to people or aunties that will just see me and say, how far? Anybody? Or they would give somebody my phone number and say, oh, this guy is going to call you. Things like that. And mind you, I never also closed the door or said, okay, because I'm not ready to marry. I dated, I had relationships with people, I had friends, but I knew deep within me that this wasn't like in my short-term goals, at least at that point. Maybe if I had met someone too who had said, oh, okay, this person is, what, maybe things, but I'm glad, to be honest, when I look back, I'm glad I didn't, get married at that point in my life. I'm really glad. I think it's one of the best decisions or one of the best things that happened to me. I think it's important that people, not just young people, before you get into, so one of the most important decisions you make in your life is who you marry, right? A lot of you here are in tech, you're doing this, you're doing that. You cannot, if you know you have lofty goals and ambitions, you can't be marrying somebody who's going to say, if I don't cook my soup, I will not eat. Do you understand? So it's a decision that shouldn't be rushed into. But another thing that I think is important is knowing yourself. Now, as human beings, we evolve. You can't know everything about yourself. But self-awareness is key when you're going to make such an important decision because it has to be informed by your values. You would see people and you say, oh, this person is not good for me. It's not just about your emotions. You begin to learn more about yourself. And I think the greatest work you can ever do is on yourself. Not all the skills you get, the greatest work you ever do is on yourself. Healing from past trauma. Sometimes the way we react to people is even because of the past experiences we've had. So if you can do that work before you decide to plunge into anything, you between yourself, the person, and the children, you would have a favor. Because when we talk about generational curses that people call it, I call it generational trauma. Some of it is from people who haven't healed, who have gone through all kinds of experiences. You plunge right in because you think you should get married at this time. You begin to inflict it unknowingly, and people say, oh, it's a cycle. Everybody in their family does that. Sometimes it can be things like just even, not knowing that you're attracted to people who are not good for you, or you're attracted to people who do, who need help. Some women do not realize it, but they might have a messiah complex. And you're like, if the man is not somebody that does not have a job, you're not interested. And you don't realize it unconsciously because you're not being mindful. And you get in there and you're always fixing, 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 fixing. You have a child, they're watching you. This is their default setting. When they grow up, they continue. So, oh, it's a generational curse. Her mother married one guy who was not doing it. Now the daughter has. It's not a generational curse. It's just the trauma that hasn't been healed. And the mother imbibes this thing and you pass it on. So knowing yourself, for me, you can never finish knowing yourself, of course, but self-awareness, learning about yourself, loving yourself would help you a lot. Because when you love yourself, you'll be able to walk away from what's not good for you. You'll be able to make the hardest decisions. You'll be able to have hard discussions, as hard as the uncomfortable discussions. It's very important.
Wow, this is so good. And I can see you guys are reiterating. Last week, we kept talking about know yourself. Know yourself.
Yes.
And I keep telling you guys, you should not choose your future before you discover yourself. And choosing your future, getting married is choosing your future. So do not make that permanent decision before you discover yourself. And we discussed it last week that it's important to invest in knowing yourself. So we kept saying this, and now I'm happy she's saying it as well. When you were talking, one of the things I was going to ask you that looking back, do you have any regrets? And I love you answered that already, that no, absolutely no regrets. You were happy that you waited and you got it right. So I hope you guys are learning. Know yourself. Now, in as much as there's a lot that I want to say on this, but there are more questions we're going to build on, I want you to talk a bit about your tutu. You graduated with a second class lower. I also graduated with second class lower. And most times for me, it took me 3 years to discover that I could do something with my certificate. I thought that was no opportunity,
Yes.
no
That's how it
scholarship
was.
to
Yes,
compete
sir.
from.
Yeah.
So I want you to share. But today I've realized that my certificate, as well as my experiences, have been an advantage. So because I realized that I have to push a little extra than those with 2-1 and first class, it has made me work harder and it has stretched me and made me even become a lot more better. So I'm now more valuable because I have all these skills. So will you say your tutu has been an advantage eventually, or how were you able to navigate eventually 20 years in career in the impact space with that background? How did it push you? How did it make you see life differently?
Okay, so luckily for me, in as soon as I got a foot in the door with my first job, my certificates didn't really, other roles. I hardly have people asking for my certificates, because you know how it is with careers. You work somewhere, you see another role, they're looking now at your experience. Knowing what I know now, I think I could have very, very easily gotten a 2-1. I was just not one thing I took out of that experience is at whatever stage you are, mindfulness, getting information is very key. And it's with my kids, with my children now, I'm trying to do that. So my parents, the way we were brought up, nobody put us under any pressure to even force yourself to get it. We didn't know. We just got into school. Primary school, you're doing great. Secondary school, you're doing great. And you get into university and you're like just coasting along. So coming out, I wouldn't say I was now overly conscious, of it. Once in a while, it will come up. Maybe I want to apply for, maybe what's it called? When I wanted to apply for my master's, right, in certain schools. Maybe you say, oh, you want to go to a particular school, and it might come up. But some of those schools too would look at my work experience and say, okay, you have this work experience. But in the beginning, yes, it did make me see the need to build my skills, be able to do things, because coming out of school, you don't have any experience to speak of. So it helped me at least learn other things, like, of course, hone my computer skills. So I had more to offer beyond that paper, right? So I think in that way, that's part of what it did for me, is build my skills, try to be resourceful, try to keep abreast with, things that could keep me ahead, of the curve.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. So there are two different segments of people I want you to address now. Those that are still in school, like more like encourage them that if you can graduate a 2-1 of first class, it's fine. Don't say okay
Yeah.
because others did 2-2 and they're doing fine, you can go. And then also it's now looking like in the job market it's more about what you can do, not the certificate you have. And I saw someone put in the chat that she had a 2-1, she had done law school, but she's still looking for a job, she's still searching for a job. So we have a lot of people in that category. Even those with first class, they're kind of, they feel stranded. So
Yes.
looking at your experience, your impact work, and what you've seen in real life today, do you have any words for them?
Oh, yeah. For those in secondary school, I would say, if you're in secondary school now, look at, pause for a moment and think of where you want to go if you know. Now, no pressure. Because even when I was going to university, I had to go, I want to be an architect today, I want to be this, I want to be that. So, but sometimes where you want to go might not necessarily be a discipline, like, oh, I want to be an astronaut or a physicist. Where you want to go might be the kind of life you want to have, the kind of work you see yourself doing, right? Try and be mindful. All the 2-1, 2-2, to be honest, it's not difficult. It's not beyond you. I find that sometimes what it takes is discipline. Try and be mindful and intentional where you are now and say, you know what, I'm going to put in the best. Knowing yourself, that is where it comes in again. Everybody learns differently. Knowing yourself will tell you, oh, do I take a bit of time to comprehend, and do I need to prepare earlier than others? And sometimes even just choosing the right circle of friends. For instance, when I made friends with that girl, the smartest girl in my class, the most, the best student, that's when I knew about GP. What if I hadn't met her? We started studying together. The first semester I studied with her, I got 4 point something out of 5 points. I didn't even, because she just, she even said showing me patterns in the way, like, oh, she'll say, okay, this lecturer, this is the way he likes, he does assessments. He's more of just give me everything I'm giving you in the book, word for word. She has studied them so well and understood. Sometimes we'll be reading, she'll say, oh, you know what, I think this part is going to come out. This one has talked about this thing a lot. Just having her. So sometimes, I will be in the hall and the exam paper will come out and we'll look at it, I will look at each other, I will just laugh because you get. So being deliberate about the kind of people you hang out with would help. Also, for those who already maybe have a 2-2, 2-1, first class, whatever, and are in the job market, start working from the end. The way the job market, yes, like you said, excellence is now shaped. It's not a lot about, oh, what you graduated with necessarily anymore, but the kind of skills and what you bring to the table. Where would you like to work? Look at some of these job descriptions. What are they asking for? What are some of the skills on the list that you can get? Work from the answer to where you are. So you want to be maybe I don't know, what example would I use? Scrum Master. I'm just giving an example because we're talking about tech or whatever it is. Look at what they're asking for. Look at a few vacancies. Look at your audit your skills. You should audit your skills regularly. In my 20s, that's one of the things I'll do. I'll be working and I had this book. I still found it one of those days. And when we go for meetings and stuff, I'll see certain things come up that I, of course, when I'm not familiar with. I'll have a list every year of the ones I want to read up on, the ones I want to get trainings on. Audit your skills. What are the skills I need to get to this? And the amazing thing about this period we're in is that there's so much information. There's so many free courses. You won't believe it. You would not believe it. Like you see one that you can pay for, but you might see one that you can, that'll be free. So, and if you can, I don't know what it's like now, try to volunteer if possible. I remember a friend of mine, she finished with a 2-1. She was an accountant. She was looking for a job for a long time. And she would apply and apply and apply and nothing. And I just heard about this not-for-profit, an EU-funded not-for-profit coming to town. And I said, you know what, go and volunteer to them. When she went there, they were looking at her like, really, you want to work for free? They said, well, we're setting up our office. We haven't even described the kind of roles we want to get. She said, please, I would like to work with you guys. I don't have a job. And they were like, okay. And that's how she started. And she worked and worked. By the time they set up their office, had a sense of what they wanted to do, she was one of the first people they interviewed. She had built her credibility with them. She had built trusts. She had become a useful member of the team. Another thing, to think of what you can do by yourself. You see my situation. Another thing that led me to even start the virtual assistantship when I did was I hadn't done my NYSC. And as soon as I got out of school, a lot of people then, oh, NYSC, and even the most mundane jobs are like, oh, if you don't have NYSC, you can't work. So what was I faced with? The choice of starting my own business, and in business doesn't have to be some huge, it can be providing a service to the people. Just what's the need? What do these people need? Maybe, I can put together videos for, okay, I live in this place and there are 10 churches. These churches are not going to get people to do their media. Maybe I want to even go and provide that service where I will just manage their social media. I don't know, I'm just giving you examples. It can be anything, but start where you are, because sometimes just waiting, to get employed might not really work. We have, Nigeria, I don't know, a lot of people are from all over Africa, but Africa is one of the continents with the largest number of young people. So some of us will have to create the jobs we do. So it's very important. Put the word out there again, put the word out there. If you're looking, everybody, when people talk about, so by the way, because networking, a lot of the jobs I've gotten have just been also by reference. Networking can be a very useful tool. You might tell someone, oh, by the way, I'm, looking for a job. And at the time when you even tell them, it might not even click or register to them that, oh, there's an opportunity. But it might be somewhere and someone says, oh, by the way, I'm looking for so-and-so skilled person. And they say, oh, hold on a minute. There was this lady I was talking to the other day, and she said, okay, you know what? So put the word out there as well. So I hope these tips help you.
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Sorry, guys, my light went off, so to be fixed in a
Yeah,
bit. That's why it was. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. That was deep. Wow, wow. Okay, now in your 20s, were there any opportunities you wish you had pursued or regrets you
definitely.
have? Think I wish I would have done this, and if I have to see someone younger, I'll say, please do this.
Oh, yeah. Yes, definitely. One of the opportunities was going to do my master's. I got, admission to go to the UK to do my master's, and I let myself be very easily discouraged. At the time when, in fact, I had several opportunities to do that, and I wish I had done it earlier, because, going to school much later in life when you have responsibilities, children, a husband, it can be tough. I wish I had taken that opportunity. I think wish I had even gone all up to my PhD, when I was in my 20s. Other opportunities was also like advocating for myself at work. Some of the things I know now, I didn't know then. I remember an opportunity I had to go work briefly in another country, and I didn't take it. I was just thinking about so many things. And when I look back now, and even with the trajectory my career took, international experience, you cannot, what's it called? You cannot, it's very, very advantageous to have experience of working in another country. But with all things, though, one of the things I'll say is give yourself grace, because while there are opportunities that, you might miss, you can't dwell in the past and say, okay, you know what, I didn't get that opportunity, so I'm going to, maybe my life would have been better. Yes, it may have been, but of course we move. Like we Nigerians say, we move. So give yourself grace. Sometimes you're working with the information you have at that time when you're making these decisions. You don't know all you should know, and that can affect your, the final decision that you take. So yeah, that's one of the
Wow.
things.
Thank you very much. So I see a question here. She says, I got rejected by medical laboratory website to volunteer because I study microbiology. Now, you guys should know that you apply to volunteer somewhere does not mean that you'll be accepted, right?
Yes,
So
but to help you have experience at least on your CV.
yeah, but then you have to also present yourself right. It doesn't mean because you're working
Yes,
for free for them, they should just take you. They must take you. After all, it's for free.
yes.
You have to also be intentional. And then I'm a medical laboratory scientist, so I can answer for this because of the dichotomy between microbiologists and medical laboratory scientists. They're always very careful. They feel you're coming to learn, you come to steal the idea, you want to take over the lab and all. So how you communicate is important. And also, don't just say you want to volunteer. You must have researched the organization and be more specific, if possible, on what you want to do for them or the value you're bringing to the table. I hope that helps, Ada. Do you have any contribution, ma, to that?
Yeah, sometimes not every volunteer place will take you. A lot of even I myself, when I was running my small business, I've gotten people saying, "No, I want to volunteer." I don't like to waste anybody's time, so I think about what value, would I be able to really provide this person with useful work? So a lot of organizations look at some of these things. It's not enough to just say, "Okay, come," then you sit down there and you're not doing anything. Then again, if you volunteer, like Excellence said, look at the place you want to volunteer. How is it, beneficial for you? You'll probably try a few places, and at the end of the day, you might just get maybe one, or you might not get. If you do get and they don't retain you, at least you have some experience that is on your CV now. So, of course, that helps to build, what you've done and all that. So another thing I wanted to say regarding networking, because when we talk about networking, there's so many opportunities now, unlike before. Networking online, through your LinkedIn profile, try to meet people, reach out to people. It also helps as well in terms of when you're trying to look for a job.
Oh wow, thank you. I hope that helps. So, did you experience any major shifts in your friendships or relationships during your 20s? And how are you able to navigate those challenges? Most times, as young
I did.
girls, what other people think and say kind of matter, and you want to keep your friendships and relationships. Do you experience any shift?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you're young, you're going through a lot of evolution. If you're not graduating from school and leaving some friends behind, you're taking on a new job in a new city. For me, I did, but also, that as you grow and become more self aware and become, some things will have to give, right? A lot of my friendships, were they were built on common values. So I won't say I lost significantly a lot of friendships because some of us are not in the same town. Some of us don't speak every day, but we have ways of keeping in touch. Or if we ever bumped into, or if something significant were to happen in their life, I would know and visit or something, right? But with each move, whether it was a new job, whether I was moving from Lagos to Abuja, I made new friends. And as I began to become more self-aware, I started to also realize things that I were non-negotiable for me in terms of my values. So, of course, I started to let go of some of the friendships that were unhealthy, and started to become mindful that friendships don't just grow, but they have to be nurtured. So, of course, calling your friends, meeting up with them, being there for them, that kind of thing. In terms of relationships, let's say, okay, with the opposite sex, I so noticed a major shift. So as you become more self-aware, as you heal from past trauma, and as you get to know yourself more, for me, what happened was I started to realize patterns in my past relationships. So at a point in my life when I was much younger, maybe my early 20s, I was a bit more, how you're like in relationships and you're like is central to your existence, and you just think that as long as you like this person, everything is okay. And sometimes even your happiness or your well-being is determined by if you and the person are getting along or if you're not. But it's really, really unhealthy. Or maybe you're with someone and people are fighting, you're sad. Okay, you're smiling, or you're happy. It got to a point after maybe one breakup that I had to sit down with myself and say, I think it was even my auntie that first of all pointed it out to me, like, you have to just love your own company and love yourself, and know what you want. I know that's one of the things so about dating, that it does use that. Sometimes you don't know what you want, but you now realize what you don't want. Because sometimes you don't know what you want. If someone were to say, give me a list, you might not know, but you know definitely from experience what you definitely don't want or cannot live with, right? It was when I decided to be more intentional and true to myself in my relationships, because sometimes too we try to perform relationship the way people have told us it should be performed, you know, and you're not being true to yourself. Then when the person starts to react towards you in that way, you now get angry. So for instance, how you learn to you teach people how to treat you. So for instance, you are in a relationship with someone, and the person also is also evolving and growing, and the person doesn't realize that they keep telling you, I like you, I love you, but their actions are not matching up. You people probably ask, oh, we're going to go to this place, or maybe something happened, I expect the person to call you, and they don't. But the person is still giving you words and saying, oh yeah, but I look, I am very, very busy. I don't, but I really love you, I just want to be with you, giving you all the right words, but the actions don't match up. It takes a certain level of loving yourself to be able to tell yourself the truth, to say, you know what, this thing, I can't, no. You might think, because the person might not even be being bad to you. The person might not even realize that if you want this to work, this relationship, you have to invest in it, right? But you know that you're just too good for somebody to make you it's an afterthought. So it takes really loving yourself and getting to that place where you notice those things and you're like, no, you know what? So I had that major shift where, and you also don't want to succumb to societal pressure or people telling you, leave that thing. It really that's how men are, blah, blah, blah. And you're just accepting it. So I got to the point where I was like, you know what? No more drama. I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of the, people who are not, like willing, right, to put in their best in relationships. I really like myself. I like my company. I love the things about myself. I'm not going to give them up because I want to be in a relationship. Getting there for me was very instrumental, right? Having things about myself I knew and I loved, and my time and what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And now being conscious that, look, I'm not going to just, be with someone. Okay, let me give you an example. I remember at a time in my life, it was like, a lot in Nigeria, they'll tell you, if a lot of people are coming to ask for your hand in marriage, select one though, because that is your time. So I'd have all kinds of people at that time. And I remember one person, that was the point when I wanted to go to do my master's. And he would come to see me. He was, ambitious, doing well in his career. He was the eligible bachelor, the one that everybody would say, this guy gets in. And he would come to see me at work, and he would just strut, pa, 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 pa. I would be carrying my laptop bag, I knew how to carry load then. And he would just come, oh, hello, and just be strutting to the car, and I'm just lifting all these heavy bags and things, And I'm like, can't you help? And I don't do gentleman, though. Me, I'm not into that gentleman stuff. And I'm like, this is not about gentleman. If my friend, a girl, was burdened with a lot of bags, or even you, the man, I would say, oh, you know what, can I help you with that? It's simple, good manners. And we'll talk, and he's like, look, I want to marry you. I don't know. He's like, you're not serious. I said, I want to go to school. He's like, your mates are getting married. You're talking about going to Ghana. Which sort of school do you want to do? You're not thinking about, And, people say, but he's telling you the truth. You have to make up your mind. You have to decide. Sorry, someone is, you have to decide. You have to this, you have to that. And I saw so many warning signs for me. So some of the warning signs, if I tell you now, you will think I'm crazy. Let me tell you one of the warning signs for me that I knew that no, it's not going to work. I went to visit him and he had pictures of himself everywhere. First picture, he's crossed his hand. Another picture. And I'm like, you don't have any friends, family. This is a small house. I have about 10 pictures of yourself. Huge framed pictures. Now, this is me. I'm not giving it to anybody as your. And vis-a-vis what I saw, I just felt, this person's a bit self-absorbed. Can I do this? Now, that person will marry somebody and they'll be live happily ever after. But for me, I was like, I can't live like this. I don't know. I'm not even sure if he likes me, or if he just wants to get married. Right? If he's talking about masters or something like, he wants to do masters, you don't want to get married. Is he going, the day I get one amazing job, is he even going to be, would you think he's like, when you should be taking care of your children? You want to, And I just said, you know what? It's not, people, oh, no, this guy's a really good, this guy. I said, look, not for me, because in fact, when I met my husband, that's one of the things, we were just talking, and I just, we had been friends for a long time. And I said, and to be honest, if I hadn't made that shift in the way I saw relationships, I would never have married my husband, to be honest, because when I was much younger, I was in the place of drama, the person who likes you is not the person you like. You like the one that, treats you badly, right? And if I had met my husband at that point, I would have been like, this guy is just too nice. Because I see people say that he's too nice, he's just a beg, But by the time I met him, I had made a move to more self-awareness, more self-love, more being enough for myself, knowing that I'm enough, right? And in fact, one of the things that drew me to him to say that's because we were friends before, was when he would, I'll be going to maybe a book reading in Abuja where I lived, and he would come with, it's not his thing, I'm going to a book reading or a drama and play. It's not his thing, but he'd be like, oh, let's go. And he'll come out and maybe he meets a friend and the person say, you're going for a play and all. He said, no, it's, it's not the way I just came with her. And he told me one day, he said, these your own things, please don't give them up. I want you to have those things you enjoy. Because he had the things he enjoyed. Then we had the things we enjoyed together. And I was so happy. I'm like, yeah, this is, because sometimes you just tend to just give it all up. But I'm getting there. And then after a while, you're like, oh God, I've lost myself. I don't even know who I am. And he, when I was talking about my school, he was helping me. He was like, you know what, whether you go or not, I know that, we're meant to be together. And I was like, you're very confident about this. And I saw someone who, because some of you here are going to achieve really great things. So you need, when it comes to relationships, whether it's marriage or whether it's just your friendships with your fellow girls, you need people who are going to grow with you and it won't be a problem. Because sometimes you might just be that person who's looking for a job. You haven't even started a job, right? It looks like that's where you are, but you don't see how far you're going to go. Excellence is going to UCLA. She probably couldn't have seen it in her early 20s or anything. And if you're somebody who just thinks that you're, this one that you're even doing is even a bit too much, then resentment, I'm not talking about just marriage, resentment starts to build up. Anything you do, oh yeah, she's talking like this, because you're going to UCLA, we don't go here for you. What's her, oh no, it's too much, So it's very important to be with those people who want you to grow, want the best for you. Because these are the people too that will see the opportunity and say, oh, wait a minute, you've been talking about this thing here, look at this. You want someone who's going to be your champion and, encourage you, even with your friends, girls, that you surround yourself with. I see a lot of people that tell me, oh, when I got married, I left all my single friends behind. Why? If they're good enough to be your friends, then why can't they be your friends now? So relationships for me are paramount. It's one of the things, having that support. Sometimes you might not even believe in yourself. These are the people that will tell you, what? How dare you? Do you know? They would pump you up, gas you up, and make you. So it's very, very important. When people tell me things like, oh, I'll prepare my children for marriage, I'll tell them this and that and that. I'm like, if you just prepare your children to have good, healthy relationships. Whether it's marriage or whether it's just friendship with normal people, it will be okay. Because the same things you do in these friendships apply, whether it's being considerate, whether it's not being critical, whether it's wanting and seeing the best in others, whether it's being kind. We don't just go and say, okay, when I get married, I'll learn all those things. No, it's who you are. It should be who you are. It should be the way your friend. You can't be friends. Some of us have people that are frenemies. We say we are friends. We do perform all the friendship, but deep down, you're not happy for this person when they even do better than you do, or vice versa. So, working on yourself, being more self aware, the friendships that are not beneficial, you can spot them head on, that this is stifling me. I'm always apologizing for who I am. I'm always feeling bad. If something good happens to me, I'm always feeling bad. Oh, how am I going to tell Divine? Oh, hey, God, I just got a scholarship, Divine. Oh, I'll wait. If you have those kind of relationships, don't wait. They're not healthy. And if you're the one, because it's very easy to say, oh, I like my people non-toxic. If you're the one that is toxic, and that's the same self-awareness thing we're talking about, begin to spot those things in you. If several people have told you in different situations, you know what? I find that you're a bit critical, or you're never there for me, you were not. Don't take it badly and say, oh, I'm not going to have this for my friend again. They always, no, have a pause, sit with yourself and say, these people couldn't have had a meeting, and everybody's saying the same thing. Maybe it's me. And you can work on I've said it before, the most important work you do is on yourself. You can work on yourself and decide there and then that I'm going to be the kind of friend that I want to have. And when you're that person, whichever friendship it is, whether it's, your friends, and like I said, whether it's and nobody is perfect. We continue to evolve and we continue to learn. One thing I'll say to you is, in relationships, keep learning. Don't ignore things. When things happen, learn from them, learn from yourself. If something triggers you and makes you, and why am I triggered by this thing? If in a past relationship you find out that I don't like when people note it. And if you meet people who have that tendency, early on, no. Everybody you meet and you talk to is not your friend. Some people are acquaintances. But when you have friends, people that you call your friends, your people, you know that these are really the people who are, supportive. They can tell you the truth. And again, so as human beings, let's also keep ourselves open. There's a way we can be that nobody wants to tell us the truth. You can set yourself up so badly that if people even see you jumping into a volcano, they just be like, I go leave her. Now she will not go here. Give people permission to tell, yes, sometimes it might be hard. You might want to jump in and say, oh, that's not how. Listen, of course, not every criticism too is what you should take in. But if somebody says some, pause before you even start being emotional and think, this thing this person said right now, is there something to it? Is it possible that, So, yeah, I think I've said enough about relationships.
It's beautiful and I love it. And you literally are touching on everything. And I just wish you could go on and on again. And I'm so happy that they get to hear this. And they've all been putting self love thing. And like you just keep reiterating, it starts with knowing yourself and loving yourself. There was something you said about the other guy that is absorbed. You said he might be great for someone else. He might be a good person for someone else, but it just wasn't for you. And it made me remember one relationship that seemed ideal, an amazing guy, um, at least in the standards for most people, very good, and all of that. He's just a good person. And he was very upfront with me about what he wanted, which I think was good. I like people being upfront, tell me straight up, don't be
Yeah.
beating around the bush. He was being upfront, he was okay and all of that. But when I sorry, my network is glitching.
Oh, no
Can you
problem.
guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Thank you. So I was a little bit, oh, what's going on, And when I saw that he was really serious, this is someone that dragged this whole. I want to marry you for quite a while, maybe 2, 3 years, and I'm like, okay, let me now pay attention. When I began to pay attention, and I saw, okay, this person is a good person, but not a good person for me.
Yeah.
And so somebody might be good, but not for you. And there's no way you will know that the person is not good for you if you've not understood yourself or you don't know yourself. So I'd known myself and I understood that, oh, you're a great person, but not for me. Now I'm going to read quickly the reply I gave to him. So when he told me, I said, give me time to think about it and get to know you better, then I'll give you a reply. And I wrote this beautiful letter. Just listen to see my angle. I'm like, you're a great guy with a great personality, and I've come to realize that I do like you. However, I'll be saying no. And these are my reasons. Number one, when I asked about why you want to be married, you mentioned to raise godly children, and over our conversation, I've observed how having kids are important to you. So many kids are that. Unfortunately, due to some health reasons, I'm not sure I might be able to have more kids. And it's also something I've decided not to be bothered about. I've decided to keep it secondary. If they come, eventually fine. If not, I'm fine. And I don't want to have so many kids. So, key highlights of getting married for you is having kids and raising them in God's way. That's not for me. Number two, the aspect of your wife making your meals. I cook, but I don't like to cook. And cooking is something I don't mind outsourcing. I don't even see myself being in one place for so long. I'll travel a lot on assignments across the world, and I'll rather do brain work than be in the kitchen. This is not an area I consider important as long as it can be paid for. But to you, it's important, and you feel that breakfast in bed brings bonding to the family. So I don't think we're aligned.
Oh, how
Number
romantic.
three, you're not ready to chase a woman. Maybe when you get married to her, you will. But I believe what someone doesn't do being themselves, they won't sustain because of a why. I don't get
Mm.
you checking on me every day, or maybe something. I have come to understand is your thing, but it doesn't work for me, and that's not what I want. Like I've constantly reminded you from the beginning, vision and value alignment is key for me, and companionship, friendship, and being pampered is important to me. I've had a fair share of a terrible experience already. I know marriage comes with its own compromises and realignment and growth and all, but there's a line already for me. I hope we continue to be friends and we individually meet and find the right life partner for us. Don't forget you're amazing and what you want and desire is valid. I know so many women that would drool over it and be forever grateful to God to have you, but they are not me. So I wrote this letter. I sat down and I wrote
Yeah,
it
I
and I
love
outlined
it.
it and I sent it to him. Forget about what happened after. But then this is just so me. And looking back, I had to smile and I was proud of myself that had gotten to this point where I could say no. Like he was, if you want to be good and if it's shared with someone, he cooks. He's in the development sector. He supports
Yeah,
my work. Will send me every opportunity. He will encourage me to apply. But there's more for me. This is in me now. I know where I'm headed, and I knew that I was going to be touring the continent, and this person wanted someone that is there, that is around. That's
and
not
it's
me.
yes, no stop. Yeah,
Yeah, so I had to stay true to myself. I had to say no, at that point. So like I'm learning. You're saying a lot, and I love that you're sharing it. And I hope you guys are learning as well. So you have to invest in knowing yourself. And I love what you said. You said if people give you feedback, don't just attack, don't just react. Pay attention. Oh, could it be me? Am I the trigger? Is there something about
mhm,
me that I need to work on? I think
yeah.
that's nice. We have just 5 minutes left, but I feel like we should just continue because there are just so many questions left, and they are also going to ask questions. But I want to ask you this last question before they ask their questions because I want them to ask as well. But we'll try to hurry up. So after she answers this question, if you can't stay longer, fine. But if you want to, please, I'm enjoying the class. But I know she has other
Yeah,
things to
I have some time before the come back from school. Yeah, I have some time.
say.
Yes,
Oh, thank you. So, did you were you able to get a hang of your finances when you were in your 20s,
very
or
important. Yes.
struggle with
So
it?
I
How was
would.
it like?
That's a very good question. So I'll share. So that's a very good question. So in terms of finances, I grew up with the thinking, that if you work hard, make money, one day you'll be rich. Now the path to being that rich, nobody told me. So when I started work, I was earning, I was single, didn't have any responsibilities, lived with my uncle and auntie who paid for everything, and I didn't have a hang of my finances. I just was like I was on a race to even finish the salary at the end of the month. More is coming. Unfortunately, where I even worked, they pay you every 2 weeks because it's an American NGO. And it took me talking to a friend who I was a Sunday school teacher with to realize, we're just talking, a young guy doing well, and we're just talking about finance. I didn't even know about the stock market. And he just said, oh, you buy the stock, you do that, you do that. And I just said, hey, I mean, because in my mind, it was all people that buy stocks. My father always had stock dividend, blah, 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 blah. So I was just waiting for this age where I'd get to and start getting interested in all those things. And he now opened my eyes, and I bought my first stocks through him. And he started to teach me about investing. And I started to manage my money a bit better. I said a bit better because I don't think then I was deliberate as I should be. And then also, compared to what you have now, the information regarding investment and savings is not as readily as available. Like then I had to have a stockbroker who would so I opened a stockbroking account, the person would buy the shares. It took quite a while before even they got online CSCS, where you could check, stock prices. Those days you look at the back of the newspaper or something. And I wasn't as prudent as I should be. I liked life, enjoyed myself and all that. And, sometimes when my auntie or, talk to me and say, with this kind of money you earn, some people even have a family, blah, 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 blah. How can you say your money has finished? And I didn't have a sense of where my money was going. I think one of the best things that happened to me regarding my finances was meeting my husband, to be honest, because first of all, when we were doing that, before we got married, our church, they make you do a budget of your expenses on the guy's salary. And, you start talking, how can people live on it? But meeting him, I mean, at the job he was doing at that time, I think I was even earning a bit more. When I found out how much he had saved, I'm like, how are you doing it? He said, oh, every month he'll bring out this amount and he would now, I said, people, I mean, this was a guy paying rent, had a car, fueling. I lived in my uncle and auntie's house. We lived in Abuja, close to my office, right? I could just walk to my office. I didn't need a car. If I have the time, my colleagues would just drop me at home on their way home. I didn't pay any crazy bills. My office, I had health insurance. They even gave me money for rent, which of course I just put in my pocket because I didn't leave, even though eventually I got a place, but at the point where I was, I didn't have any excuse. So talking to him and seeing how deliberate he was with money and very intentional and how very planned, and he was still enjoying himself, I was like, there's something to this thing. And he started to teach me that just because you have money in your account for something doesn't mean you can afford it. Having a financial plan constrains you and having a budget, because what it does for you is it helps you to, by the time you've put money in those places, you say to yourself, okay, now this is what I really have. So I can't afford, because sometimes people leave. I saw something ridiculous on what's it called on the internet the other day. A girl who said, oh, her boyfriend earns 450,000 naira. He gave her his ATM or something, and she spent 400,000 naira on hair. And why is he angry? Because he earns 400,000. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like seriously, like if you have to spend, like, sometimes people say, oh, I want to go to the Bahamas, and you earn 900,000 naira a month, and just because the trip will cost 890, you think you can afford it? Seriously? I had to unlearn a lot of those ways of thinking. You go on a vacation and you come back very broke because you know that there's a salary coming. But if they were to say, oh, you know what? Bye, you're not doing this job, you cannot even sustain yourself for the next 6 months without working. And I'm learning. I started learning, and I started making, and thank God for a few friends as well, because I have one friend the other time, she said, oh, there's this land, this estate that they're selling, and we put money, and I'll tell you, that's appreciated drastically. So having friends too who support that, need to save, and you can learn and grow together, that can tell you about opportunities, is very important. One of the things I'll tell you, looking back, I wish I had done, and I wish, and if you can do it at your age, you younger people, this is the time. Save and invest. right? Because if you want to build financial stability, this is the time. Don't say, oh, I'm young. Oh, you start chasing, oh, I must have this phone, I must have that. If you earn 100,000 naira, have a budget. Have a budget and say, and make some hard decisions, some unpopular decisions, and even making those unpopular decisions, apart from teaching you discipline, it will prepare you for life because sometimes you do some unpopular things. People will be looking at you like, for instance, there might be things. I want to change this phone. People say those things to people. Want to change this phone? Want to change the phone is working perfectly, is not giving you any trouble, and people want to change. If you have plans and know where you're going, it won't be a problem for you. It's when you don't know where you're going, you now start feeling self-esteem. Oh my God, these people think I'm poor. I don't know. There are not a lot of Igbo people here, but Igbo people say, Akunesho Bike. Wealth makes the heart strong. It gives you confidence. Nothing is as sweet as financial stability, I'll tell you. Because what it does for you is that it gives you choice. You see, wealth is not, because when we were growing up, people made wealth even look bad, being rich. Why do you want to be rich? You see people say things, I don't want to be rich. I just want to be comfortable. What does that even mean in a place like Nigeria where you can wake up this morning, if your generator breaks down, water, everything, you might spend 200,000 naira in a morning, and God have mercy on you if your salary is less than that, or you don't even have that money in your account. We don't have the kind of system that you say, okay, I walk into the hospital for free. Having your money makes you more, like you have a range of choices at your disposal. When I was younger, I was very entrepreneurial. So in university, I did a lot of business. I was always doing one business or the other. I wish I had known all that time when I was, because my parents were giving me pocket money and everything. So even take some of that money, put it away, save, invest, let your money work for you. Right now, as you guys are, younger now, there's so much at your disposal, tools, high yield savings accounts, where you can put money in. You can buy, stocks you can buy dollar stocks. You can say to yourself, you know what, my salary is 200,000 naira. Every month I would put 20,000 into buying stocks, fractionated stocks. You can start to put money, because sometimes when we think about growing rich, sometimes it's not just, sometimes just saving that pot of money opens you up to opportunities. People talk about wealth transfer. Something can happen tomorrow and somebody say, oh, there's this estate and they're selling. And because you've saved, you can take advantage of that opportunity. A girl was telling me how in Abuja, they were selling somewhere in Pape, and she had saved up to buy a car. And she had about 2 million naira for that car. And she was like, oh, about to buy it, where she had this advert about land. She did her due diligence. Of course, when it comes to land, everybody be careful. She did her due diligence and established the credibility of this particular land sale, right? She took this 2 million naira and put it in and bought land 500,000 each, 4 pieces. And as we speak, I think each one is about maybe something like 6 million naira worth. Those kind of opportunities don't come when my friend told me about land, she said, oh, let's buy. In fact, when she started telling me about this particular one, it was like 800,000 naira in Lube, one part of Lube. And I kept dragging my feet. I was like, oh, God. Oh, I don't know. I have this. And in fact, she made me go and put down some of that money. And thankfully, because the people hadn't gone to the site, they said pay small, small. Unfortunately, I didn't even get it at that 800. By the time I got my act together to even put the money, the land was probably 3 or 4 times, more. So you can imagine the people that got at 800. By the time we were trying to buy, they were even saying, you know what, do you want to buy my own? Now, some people sold and got their money and left. And that's what some people do, they prospect. But as we speak now, because people are living in that estate, that property has multiplied in value by at least 2.5. So what I'm saying to you is get very educated about money. There's so many resources. Read Smart Money Woman by Areseogu. Go and join Money Africa. Go and join what's the other lady? Wealth Motley. Follow the things they say save, invest. Invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge. Talk about money. Don't, see money as a swear word, something that should not be talked about. Because when you get comfortable with talking about money, when you go for that interview and they ask you how much you want to earn, you can have, because some people, once that is the worst question you can ask them, once they get to that part of the interview, that's when they decide, okay, I want to be humble. When you get comfortable with money, as applying for a job, you do your research, you find out this position I'm applying for. What is the typical salary for this position? Because sometimes people can be very funny. Maybe the typical salary is 500. You go there, you tell them, oh, I want to earn 2 million. Maybe the person interviewing you, the head of the place, the salary is 2 million. So when you get comfortable about money, it will also play a factor in the decisions you make. It's okay, how much is the typical salary for this thing? When you get into that room, do your research very well. And you can then say, oh, so how much are you looking at? You're comfortable, you're not shaking, your mouth is shaking, you don't know how to start. And it will also play a vital role in even other decisions like marriage. A lot of people go into relationships with people. If you're not educated about money, you get into, if you're educated about money, aware of money, prudent, saving, everything, and you get into a relationship with somebody who's a squanderer, nobody will even tell you anything. If the person doesn't have their money act together, nobody, even if the love is pouring out of your ears and your nose and your eyes, you just, because you see money, it's one thing that can, okay, I will put the link for Money Africa in the chat, is one thing that can destroy relationships. In fact, I would even recommend also watch the show on Netflix called I'll Teach You to Be, How to Get Rich. The guy who made that documentary, he has a book, I'll Teach You to Be Rich, Psychology of Money. Read these books, educate yourself, get comfortable. One of the things, when I met my husband, a lot of people, oh, don't talk about money. You don't look like a gold digger. Okay. One of the first things I talked about was money. Not one of the first things, but one of the things we talked about a lot was money. When we started talking, when the marriage thing came, on the table and we started talking, I said, so, we talked about money. I told him how I felt. Thankfully, I had moved away because I really had this morbid fear of not having money. Like it had become a crippling fear. If my money remains small, oh God, my life is over, And we were talking and I said to him, for me, it's very important because just to even be able to afford certain things, and he was like, so you mean if I was earning, I've forgotten how much he called, one really, really small amount a month, 30,000 naira a month, you not marry me? I said, no, I won't marry. I mean, why would somebody, and this will sound very bad and harsh, materialistic, gold diggerish, everything, some people, why would somebody who's earning 30,000 naira a month be looking to marry somebody at that point in his life? I just didn't think it was a wise decision. You might not even be able to afford your wedding, you get, and that's just the beginning. Or is it rent? Because sometimes I listen to people, they talk, oh, no, everybody donates, let's get these people married. Are you going to donate for their life? And after that, the children? We have to be mindful of where we are. If you want to get married, good. Try to improve your capacity. Because are you able to take care of yourself at that time, let alone take care of somebody else? Of course, the woman might come and support, but I don't think it's the best decision for somebody at that stage in life. So while he was not earning 30,000 naira, he was earning far more than that. He asked me, so if he was earning 30,000 naira, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I won't. Because I wouldn't go and, pretend and just, because I want to be humble. No. Because how would we even pay school fees? Right? How will we even pay our rent? What will we eat? Will we fry this love and roast it and eat it? So money is, get educated about it. Learn to be comfortable talking about money. Learn to build your, your savings and your investments, and get yourself to a place where you get to the point where you can say, now, if I want to do this, I want to do that, I can, from my investments, fund it. I have a lot of young people who are still in their 20s now. I look at them and what they are doing and the moves they're making, and I'm just so happy, because you don't have to wait to be a certain age. Learn from other people's mistakes And one thing I would say to you, another thing I'll say to you, not say one thing because I've said so many one things. When you meet people who are doing better than you are or doing things you'd love to do, ask questions. At a particular point in my life, I realized that sometimes when I sit with people, I would just be talking. At the end of the day, when you come out, you're like, "Ah, I don't even know anything about these people, right?" Perhaps the person sitting with you is somebody who you have so much you can learn from, but you've just been so busy talking.
Yeah.
I would never have known about investment if that guy I was teaching Sunday school with, I didn't ask him because he's always dropping things here and there. Okay, oh, I'm doing this now, I'm doing that. And one day I just followed up and said, these things you're even doing. How? And that's how he said talking. And every time he'll see an opportunity, he'll call me and he'll say, oh, are you interested? Are you interested? My auntie was telling me that she also reiterated this, what I'm saying to you. She said when, she learns, she and her husband, when they go for networking dinners, right? All the richest, most successful people, they come to you, hello, hi, excellence, how are you doing? Oh, what do you do? They'll be asking you questions, asking you, be talking, talk. Suddenly, maybe somebody will now come and say, oh, I saw you were talking to, I'm just going to give an example. Maybe someone, I saw you were talking to Bill Gates. And you're like, eh, that person's Bill Gates. Do you know, we're just talking, I have no idea what he does, but I'm sure he has my life history. And that's one thing I learned. So when I, sit with people, we talk. And Nigerians sometimes we tend to do this thing when we religiously, people say, when they're talking to you, they'll say, oh, so that's how I just said I wanted to do this thing. I just had this goal. And thank God, glory to God, and I just did it. I'll pause and I'll ask you, please, can you just like backtrack a bit? How exactly? Because in the how you might find out, key steps, things that you don't know. When I meet people and maybe we're talking, especially when we're networking, I try to ask them a bit about themselves, learn, because information is key. Information is everything. Just pause and just, okay, oh, really? Oh, yes, listen more. And you'll be better for it because you can have that friend and the person is making all these money moves and investment moves and they don't think you're interested. But if you call, you're talking to someone and the person is, oh, okay, or maybe, you meet someone and you find that this person manages money better. Doesn't take anything, just how do you do it? What's your system? And people like to talk about themselves and then, the person shares and you learn. Don't be shy about gaining knowledge. Yeah, financial Jennifer is also a good one. So
So she's coming in
yeah.
next week to
Oh, I
speak to
mean,
you about money. So I'm seeing you guys saying, how can I do stock? How can I
stay away from
invest?
scams. So stay away from
What?
scams too, because I'm stay away from scams. When we talk about money, another thing that happens to a lot of people is also that's why you should educate yourself and know the right. So there was something that happened recently. There was this guy. I don't know if you've been following what's been happening in the financial space in America. There was this bank that's came. This guy, Bankman Fried. You know him now,
Okay.
the one that had that tech startup. They are doing some crypto, whatever. He got
Okay,
so
okay,
many
okay,
people
okay.
on presidents, blah blah blah. And in fact, there was a couple who took all their money, put. They even what's it called? Behind dusting the whole thing. In fact, they've split up after the whole thing imploded. The couple split up. But anyway, they went to a lot of people, and I think was it Taylor Swift? It was Taylor Swift that they came to pitch this thing to, and she was the only one who asked them a question, a critical question. What did she even ask? She just asked, so you know how we have NDIC in Nigeria? So I think America's zone is called FDIC, something like that. And she just asked, like these investments, are they insured, like maybe, I don't know the exact words, but like accredited by the government, that kind of thing. And they couldn't answer that question and she didn't invest. God saved her by that question. So a lot of the times, sometimes people who have walked into things like, there's this my friend at home, she's making so much money, blah, 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 she's having a Zoom. You get in there. Because you've been educating yourself, then somebody, in Nigeria, the interest rate if you invest. Last year, I think the highest you could get, even maybe from commercial paper, was about 10%, right? Inflation, it was at maybe 14 whatever percent. Then you get into this thing, and somebody says, have you making 1 million every month, 20%. We'll give you 20%. If you don't educate yourself well enough, you might not be able to ask the right questions. I had an experience where I had a bit of money and I wanted to invest it. And I went to a friend, very well respected friend, and said, I have this money, I want to invest it everywhere I've been going. The interest rates don't seem so good. She said, there's this guy I can link you up to. So she linked me up to the guy. I went to his office. I mean, only the office staff, you even be like, this person, my money is just going to get lost. Well, but said, well, let's see. So then I was talking about with him, and at that point, I think of all the places I had gone to, the highest interest rate they had said maybe was, let's say it was 15% annual. Because I said, so I now said to him that, so how, this thing you're going to do, he said 3% per month. I said 3% per month? He said, yes, 3% per month is 36%. And he said, even compounding. So if he invested this month, whatever he makes, the next month, I was like, wow, what are you going to put this money into, please? He now said, Forex. I said, Forex. He said, yeah, that's Forex, has been in Forex trading, blah, blah, blah. Actually, he makes a lot more from this thing, but that he'll just give me 3% because he has to make something and he has to hedge his risks. But sometimes he loses money. I said, okay. So how long have you been doing Forex trading? He said, he has been doing Forex trading for 2 years. I said, no, he had been doing it for maybe less than 2 years, but maybe let's say 18 months. I said, you've been doing it for 18 months. Have you lost any money during this time? I said, not really. I just have some notable Forex traders. I shadow them. Whatever they do, I do. Whatever they do, I do. I said, okay, well, I don't know if you know everything you should know now because you've not had any bad experience. So for me, my risk appetite, my ability to sleep in the night, I don't know if I can do this. I was like, no, there's no problem, madam. Look, I've hedged some funds. So if anything happens, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, another question. If this whole setup that you have here, is it a company registered with, like if anything were to happen to you, let's say you walk out there and you get hit by a bus, can I get my money back? He said, God forbid, we do not pray for it. I said, no, I'm not saying, I don't even want it to be. I'm just saying, what if something were to happen to you? Will I have to go and meet your wife and start telling her, please, madam, sorry, your husband is no more, but before he died, I gave him this amount. He now said, we don't pray for such. He had no answer to ensure the money except, and all of us know, nobody knows how long they're going to live. And I'm supposed to take this money and give him and go to bed and sleep. I don't know how everybody's risk appetite is different, but I think for me, I would have just been every night, I was just thinking about my money like, hey, because I mean, if I had so much and this was just a little one, maybe, but even then, and I just said to him, so when I went back to my friend, I said, did you do it? The guy said, you met with. I said, I won't do it. He said, why? I told her. She said, oh my God, didn't I even ask him that? Hey, I'm giving this guy my money. I said, you didn't ask him, and he's giving 36%. Have you even got? She said, hey, anyway, no problem. I've known him for a long time. That money never came back. She lost her money. She lost her money. And every time, he also lost money. Yeah, he also lost money. But for you, that money, what you could have done with it. I mean, you would have even felt better if you had just gone and bought a few things to make you happy and enjoyed yourself than give your money to somebody for a risk that was not even properly researched. So knowing the way to see through some of these scams is by educating yourself. And sometimes if something is too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Wow. That's a masterclass. Wow, that was a lot. Thank you so much. So there's so much to learn about money. Money is very important, and even to us at the foundation, we are particular about you not just making money, but being able to manage and multiply money. And this scam thing is a big thing, is a big issue, and so it's good to do your due diligence. So, like I said earlier, financial journey is coming next week, and Her focus is going to be on you managing and multiplying the money you'll be making from the skills. And so you learn a lot of things. We've had the senior financial advisor at Money Africa with us in the last cohort. So please, you can go and watch the replay. Miss Tammy, she was with us and she talked a lot about money, understanding your money blueprint. She talked a lot about stock, about budgeting, and I think she even shared a template or something. So you can see the replay on our YouTube channel and watch. But if you want to wait, you can wait for next week for financial journey. We've also had Miss Ibukombo Omololu from former Sterling Bank. We've had quite a number of money talks here. We always have money talks during Tech Up Girls Bootcamp. So you can always watch replays and then wait for financial journey and ask her any questions that you want next week. Wow, it's so much, and I have more questions to ask you, but then let's take their questions because most of them will start crying for data and internet and batteries in a bit.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, I saw some of you asked some questions previously, but they've kind of gone up. So please ask. Um, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about was about building social capital. Most young people these days they easily bang relationships. So what's there, and I saw that in most of your talks and your communication, you kept talking about this friend, that relationship that helped you, that inspired you,
I mean, those are my
and you could
friends.
see that it's
Mhm.
very obvious that you have a very strong social capital, and I think this is relevant. It's beyond having the whole academic potential and finances. Social capital is very important in our world today, and most young people they don't have staying power, so they just move on, easily burn bridges, and then just move on. And I wanted you to highlight a bit about it. So while their questions are coming in, I don't know if you could say a thing or two, especially for the future. I think it's important that we keep relationships
Mhm.
and we're intentional about friendships and all. So if you can please just a bit very brief, and then while the questions come in, then I can ask.
Okay. Basically, it's for me, I think I take friendship seriously, like having good, healthy friendships, and it served me, and that's why I think that try not to also have those friendships I know that are toxic, unhealthy, and just keep them lingering. Because friendships take energy out of you, building them, investing in them. So you want to use that energy, channel it to the right ones. And of course, in terms of social capital, you're going to meet a lot of people along the way. Small people that you feel that, oh, this person cannot do much for me, and people that I feel that I can do a lot for. But regardless of who you meet, because you can't always know, just determining yourself that you're going to make the most of each opportunity and each person you meet. You never really know. I mean, my phone, you see people that there's some offices I want to go to. Maybe you're going to see somebody high up, and sometimes it's just the assistants in the office that have the phone number. Those people become really, really, really useful to you. You'll be shocked. You know, be able to be conscious, about developing relationships, like take it as something really serious. Sometimes, when you like, if you talk about networking, for instance, sometimes if you're going to go to a conference, a meeting, research about the people you're going to meet. People like it when you meet them and you seem to know something about them. Don't just, go and blindly walk in and say, I remember one class. So I did last year, and for 2 years, we were running this session for women on personal development. And one of our courses was networking. And we talked about business dinners. And one person was saying, oh, eating, how ho. Sometimes she's at a business dinner and she'll be eating. Then she see the person she wants to meet. And I said, see, you're going for a business, eat before you leave your house. Because you know that you're going there, you're going to meet people, you don't want something to be in your mouth and think, oh, let me swallow it quick before that person finish, but let me go and catch up with him. You don't even want to be so hungry that you're so distracted that you spend time eating and you don't make connections. You know, when you go anywhere, you meet people, make connections, you get a number, send a text message. It was nice meeting you. Let them even remember. Because sometimes you take your phone number, is in the phone. Excellence, yeah, they have excellence what? They don't remember. But if you send a text right away, the person, oh, okay, okay, is this lady, I just, they take notes. Be
Yeah.
very, very deliberate at places you work. as much as possible, if you can help it, try to live on a good note and be able to still maintain relationships with people who, I mean, you can't force it. There's some relationships that will just won't work, but try to maintain relationships with people who you've come across. Nurture those relationships. Or study your relationships. Make sure that it's not always you take, and you're never being there as a resource to help. I know excellence since how many years now? Has it been 2 years? Or yeah, and I'll say that even in our relationship, it's been mutually beneficial to both of us. As much as she's doing, what she's doing, I'm doing what I'm doing. I have gained a lot from her. As much as she said, "Oh, I've gained a lot from her." Even when I need some resources like people to do stuff for me, or I even need some things done, she's been able to help me in that aspect. It's very important. When relationships are skewed and it's like a parasitic relationship, those relationships won't, grow. And don't forget, don't get blinded by when people do things for you, right? Nobody's perfect. Sometimes there are going to be issues, but try to remember, so more of the good. So I've had a really recently I had a relationship with someone who was there for me for a lot of things, and the person just made a small mistake, and everybody else is like, no, hey, she can, and I'm like, hey, this person, at least I know is a good person, made this mistake. I can't cancel her because we have this cancel culture. I can't cancel her for this tiny misstep. When I
Mm.
needed the help, she was there. So you can't tell me that because that's what happens sometimes. And again, please don't also have unrealistic expectations of people. I've seen people who say, when I was looking for a house, did she call me? How sometimes the person doesn't even know, these things are happening with you, or So let's, a lot of the friendships I've had, and I'm not a perfect person. Of course I've had friendships even that people have called me and said, "Oh, look, Oduenyi, I'm not happy with how you did this," and we try to resolve things. But more often than not, try to at least put in your best so that you know in your heart that you put your best in it, right? So I think that for me, I think that's how to build social capital, really. You know,
Thank you very much. That's so good. For those asking about investment questions, let's keep that till next week. Next week is all about money, so you can ask all the questions you want about money. Thank you, ma'am. We have to run. It's almost 30 minutes
yeah,
past. I have another class, but we have to run.
yes.
I want to say a very big thank you. You guys have coaches in your small group, and they're there not just to help you with tech things, but they're able to answer any questions you might have as a lady, as a woman navigating your journey, marriage, things that would just affect you becoming all that you. So please ask them questions can. Liaise with them, be interactive, engage. If you have to send them a DM, feel free to send them a DM. I can't tell you to send me a DM that I'll respond, but try sending me an email, and if I have time, I will. But your coaches are with you. I can't respond to everyone, but then your coaches are there. Please do interact with them. Ms. Oduenyi, I want to say a very big thank you for coming
Thank
today.
you,
Um,
Excellence. Thank you.
please, you guys should celebrate her. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This
It's been good talking to you. I enjoyed the session very much, and I wish you all the
uh,
best as you go forward. Go
thank
and yeah, make the most of your life.
Thank you. Any final mantra for them?
Well, I'll say we've said everything. Let me see. Let me just check and make sure because I made some notes too. And yeah,
Okay.
so what I'll say is, of course, we've talked about self-awareness, know yourself, invest in yourself, have a plan as much as possible, have a personal development plan, make sure that at least your plan aligns, with your personal values and be flexible and adaptable. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean also that you're going to be gung-ho. It has to be like this. Be able to spot opportunities. Sometimes in this journey called life, we make detours. You might be heading here, but there might be detours along the way that in the end make your story all the more beautiful. So be adaptable, be flexible, build your support system. We women, especially, we need a support system. That we talked about social capital, build your support system, the people who are in your circle, have that circle, have people that you can count on. Sometimes moments of self-doubt will come. You need people who can gas you up and tell you, you're amazing, you're the magic. You need that. Everybody deserves that much. Don't forget to do that. Also know that there'll be trade-offs. Just because you say you might decide that this year of my life, I'm going to build my skills. It might affect your social life. It might mean that people will see less of you. And you learn that you can't always be apologetic for that. There are trade-offs. If you decide that you want to do a certain thing, some things are going to suffer. But one of the things we also want to do is to know what is important. What can be traded off and what is important, what is valuable, right? Because when you know those ones are valuable, whatever happens or whatever season in life you're at, you try at least to keep those things that are important up front and center. And what else? I think in the end, let me see. Keep a journal. Yes, you're in your 20s. Keep a journal, because I want you to look back and you'll be amazed. There was a time on my list, one of the main things, buy laptop. I can't even I don't know how many laptops I've bought. Buy phone, buy this particular bag. It would make you laugh. You look back and you'll be like, hi. So this was one of my biggest, things I wanted to accomplish. It's very, very important. Please keep learning. Don't stop learning. Don't stop learning. Don't stop learning. Keep learning. Learn, learn, learn. At every stage in life, learn. And finally, your internal dialogue. All of us have that thing in our head, right? Where we're talking to ourselves. Work on that. Work on that internal dialogue. Validate yourself. Don't let everything you think is not real, right? One thing, and set up challenges for yourself. 3 years ago, I'm talking to you here. There was a time when I couldn't fear of public speaking. I'm like, oh my goodness, how will I talk? And I set it up as a goal for myself. And as God works, that year I got an invitation to speak at Toastmasters of all places, International Women's Day. And I took one of my people in my circle with me, and she was gassing me. I can do it. Just imagine you're talking to me. Blah, 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 blah. I said, okay. And my husband came too. And I had notes. And I was like, but I, had to take that step. I was afraid though. I said, you know what? If I'm going to find my career, I see this public speaking, this talking to people, I have to get over it. And I got on that stage and I was able to. And when I finished, I came down, of course, hey, but you see, being the people in my circle too who are not afraid to tell me the truth, they were also able to say, you did so well, you did so well. But you see this particular place, you are talking too fast. You couldn't hear what you're saying. You see this place, I feel you should have. And that's it. So I wish you all the best. Have fun. It's been great talking to you. God bless you
Please,
all.
I have this question, but I'm not sure we can answer it now. I was just wondering, is it okay to send her to your DM? She just keeps sending the question, and it feels like it's so important. So I don't know if she can come to your DM on Instagram. She's like, please,
okay,
how
the
do
morning
I?
conversation is
Yeah, with Marion. So we can't take it now because
yeah.
time.
She can come
So I
into
don't know
my
if
DM. It's okay.
okay. So I'm going to put her this is her handle on Instagram right now. What's her name again? Wansuka, I think. Adeze. So that's her. You guys, if you want to follow her, please do follow her on Instagram as well. So Ada, you can send her a DM and I believe that she will answer you. So this is her handle at Grow with Denise. Yeah. I think I spelled it correctly. Yes, I did.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You did.
Okay. All right. Thank you
All
very
right.
much, Ma.
All the
Everyone.
best.
Night.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.